It's fall 1998. Metal Gear Solid unveils one of the most defining moments in gaming history, the famous Psycho Mantis boss fight, a profound sequence that completely shattered the barrier between player and game. Now, for the uninformed, Psycho Mantis is a psychic capable of manipulating minds. The game convinces you of this by not only having the bald freak shame or commend your playstyle, but also by reading your memory card, calling out any other Konami games he finds on file. This is all well and good, a fun, cheeky way to convince you of his abilities, but this is a game, so how is this represented through gameplay? Well, the battle itself is nearly impossible. He knows your every move and dodges almost every attack. Mantis also uses his blackout trick, simulating an input change on your CRT television. Snake's efforts are futile, until you, the player, take control by switching your controller to port 2. This confuses Mantis, leaving him vulnerable to any and all of your attacks. It seems the best way to convince the player that they are fighting someone who can manipulate minds is to manipulate their sense of reality. You are most certainly aware that storied video game designer Hideo Kojima is not your typical creator. His worlds have such a fascinating way of selling a vision that doesn't solely rely on game mechanics. Even before Metal Gear, when he tried coating the floppy disk of his visual novel Snatcher in a special paint that would release the smell of blood when heated. When you remove the disk, it would reveal code for an in-game puzzle. The idea never panned out, but it goes to show Kojima's willingness to break boundaries, not by just breaking the fourth wall, but by manipulating it. While these fourth wall breaking moments often provoke a sense of shock and awe, more often than not, Kojima will provoke a sense of Hideo Kojima's greatest tool. In these convoluted worlds of espionage, conspiracy, and grand philosophies, what truly oxygenates these worlds is the air of dread that finds itself within the gameplay, one way or another. The stench of horror within these games has created a lasting impact on millions all around the world, as it offers a unique taste of fear that is seldom seen within traditional media, let alone video games. Hideo Kojima doesn't just use horror to scare the player. Most of the time. Instead, it's often served with explicit intention to enhance the respective theme of each game, pulling the player in so they don't just understand the message, they live it. The core theme of MGS1 is gene, not being defined by your genetic constraints, rather taking fate into your own hands, the very thing you must do to defeat Psycho Mantis. This is how the prolific game creator uses horror not as a genre, but as a tool to be used in service of the interactive medium, the canvas in which Kojima is obsessed with exploring the human condition, everything from the minute details of individuality to the broader psyche of mankind. His works often commentate on humanity in the most absurd way possible. Camp. His characters, dialogue, and situations are exaggerated to extremes, yet treated with utter seriousness.
If you run out of ammo, you can have mine.
You got enough?
Absolutely. Infinite ammo.
This is the experience you sign up for when you play a Hideo Kojima game, and in order to enjoy yourself, you have to embrace the absurdity, which makes it that much more unnerving when the absurdity hits a little too close to home. Case in point, war. The ugliest side of humanity laid bare. Men brainwashed into killing, while those above them reap the rewards. Families torn apart, generations traumatized, landscapes scarred. The tragic part about these conflicts is that by the end of them, we find new and more convenient ways of killing each other the next time we feel the need to do so. This is the central ethos of Kojima's anti-war epic, Metal Gear Solid, a series of games told through the perspective of soldiers, not just main characters like Snake or Raiden, but the nameless men you evade, subdue, or kill. The game makes a point to convince you that these aren't just faceless enemies, they're human beings. Men who feel joy, fear, pain, fury, and an end. The consequences of killing a man are steep, and Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater expertly drives his point home by forcing you to feel their sorrow. Snake's lowest moment in Operation Snake Eater comes after escaping the USSR's Groznygrad. Beaten, tortured, and demoralized, Naked Snake wakes in a surreal, flaming swamp. As he wanders aimlessly, he eventually comes face to face with a man known as the Sorrow, a spirit medium soldier who can summon the dead and use their abilities by embodying their spirits. The Sorrow was a part of the Cobra unit, a team of extraordinary soldiers assembled in 1942 to combat the Axis powers. Each member's codename reflects a specific emotion that a soldier experiences while on the battlefield. The joy, the fear, the pain, the fury, the end, and the sorrow. This is by far the most creative fight within MGS3, as instead of relying on the typical tools you use for survival, you have to narrowly avoid the ghastly apparitions of every soldier you have ruthlessly killed, whether you slit their throat, riddled their body with lead, or burned them alive. Now, as a soldier, it's important to know what you are in for. Death is a possibility that needs to be accepted, whether or not it's your will to even serve. But when you go beyond the context of war and connect with your enemy on a personal level, it highlights the hypocrisy of killing for peace. The Sorrow's boss fight is an excellent example of this concept, utilizing ludonarrative harmony to exclusively tell a story you would only be able to feel in video game form. Kojima flips the script on the convention of a video game enemy by portraying not only the hero but the player as the true horror. You are Naked Snake, protege of the world's greatest soldier, capable of peacefully subduing his enemies, but instead, you decide to end the life of anyone in your way because it had no particular meaning to you. You didn't have to kill anyone, but yet you did. It's an excellent example to get you in the headspace of someone who thinks war is a game, who justifies the killing of individuals because you exist under the context of your given nation's ideology. Despite humanity sharing the same planet and the same needs, we need to make excuses to create enemies where there are none because we are ruled by the context of the times, the main theme of Metal Gear Solid 3. Scene. The current scene of the world often dictates which enemies are acceptable to kill and which are not. Even when a war is over and there is no apparent enemy, we start trying to find another one. History has proven this time and time again. In World War II, the USA and USSR were fighting together. Shortly after, they became enemies. It's a never-ending cycle. Some people have a common enemy, and then when the times decide it's been long enough, they find another one. This cyclical nature of violence, unfortunately, is the most lucrative business on the planet Earth. This has been the case since ancient times, when land, slaves, and tribute were the most prized commodity among the elite. However, when modern capitalism was introduced during the advent of the Industrial Revolution, the war economy skyrocketed to an unprecedented level of profitability. War became industrialized. It became about who could invest the most into the most efficient killing machines. Take, for instance, the scene of the post-9/11 environment, one of the most profitable and sustainable expansions of the US military-industrial complex. The tragedy not only justified the spike in defense spending, it created a permanent war on terrorism that is arguably still running to this very day. Eerily enough, it was under this scene in which the postmodern masterpiece Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty released, a game that was almost cancelled due to how closely it mirrored the post-9/11 environment. So we've established how horror has informed the themes of both Metal Gear Solid 1 and Snake Eater, but how does Kojima fit horror within the thematic context of Metal Gear Solid 2? Meme. Coined by Richard Dawkins to mean an idea, behavior, ethic, or style spread through imitation. If genes are nature, memes are nurture. Since the dawn of humanity, memes, like genes, have filtered over time. The useful memes are preserved and the irrelevant discarded. Sons of Liberty explores this idea in more ways than one, but there's a specific moment near the end of the game that highlights a unique issue with memes in the age of the internet. If everything is documented and preserved online, how do we separate the detrimental memes from the beneficial ones? Within Sons of Liberty, there is a solution proposed. The great revelation near the climax of the story reveals that the whole point of the fiction was to prove that humanity needs to be shepherded by an outside force in order to thrive. Take, for example, Raiden, someone who's willing to follow orders despite not knowing the person he's taking orders from. A complete reflection of the person playing the game. The Metal Gear fan who wants to be Snake, who just wants to follow the orders in which they are given, to ignore the truth of their own reality and live out this fantasy of being an elite stealth agent. For that very reason, you were chosen for this mission by the Patriots, the authoritative AI pulling the strings for humanity's so-called advancement. So long as the player followed their orders to a T, their success was guaranteed. It proves that the human experience can and will be moderated, despite our rebellious nature.
Trivial information is accumulating every second, preserved in all its triteness, never fading, always accessible.
Rumors about petty issues, misinterpretations, slander.
All this junk data, preserved in an unfiltered state, growing at an alarming rate.
It will only slow down social progress, reduce the rate of evolution.
The digital society furthers human flaws and selectively rewards development of convenient half-truths. You exercise your right to freedom, and this is the result. All rhetoric to avoid conflict and protect each other from hurt.
Everyone withdraws into their own small gated community, afraid of a larger forum. They stay inside their little ponds, leaking whatever truth suits them into the growing cesspool of society at large.
The different cardinal truths neither clash nor mesh. No one is invalidated, but nobody is right.
Not even natural selection can take place here. The world is being engulfed in truth.
And this is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper.
We're trying to stop that from happening.
It's our responsibility as rulers. Just as in genetics, unnecessary information and memory must be filtered out to stimulate the evolution of the species.
And you think you're qualified to decide what's necessary and not?
Absolutely. Who else could wade through the sea of garbage you people produce, retrieve valuable truths, and even interpret their meaning for later generations?
That's what it means to create context.
We can only assume that this moment is reflective of Hideo Kojima's greatest fear, who, more often than not, makes a game that is all about players breaking free from the systems of control that permeate our reality. By playing Metal Gear Solid 2, you are inadvertently perpetuating a lie, meaning that Metal Gear Solid 2 doesn't just break the fourth wall, it is the fourth wall, acting as a bridge between fiction and reality. It's a work of postmodern art that reflects the uncertain, unflattering, and undesirable future our misuse of connection is creating. There's even a moment where the game uses this against you.
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
The mission is a failure. Cut the power right now.
What's wrong with you?
Don't worry, it's a game. It's a game just like usual.
You'll ruin your eyes playing so close to the TV.
What are you talking about?
Honestly though, you have played the game for a long time. Don't you have anything else to do with your time? Lolly lule low. Lolly lule low. Lolly lule low. I'm not home right now. Please leave a message after the beep. Beep. Mind the gap.
Nonsense. The game spews nonsense at you as you try to unravel the truth under the seam. But it's not just sharing nonsense, it's sharing memes. It's deliberately undercutting the severity of the situation to give you an information overload. If you take some of these entries and put it in the context of a social media post, it bears a scary resemblance to the garbage being facilitated all throughout the internet at all times. Countless lives have been ruined by the incessant spread of misinformation. Even true information becomes unbearable under the emotional weight of consuming it every single day. The internet used to be an escape, a place to learn, connect, and be entertained. But now we have to pry ourselves away from the internet to even enjoy our own lives. It's inescapable. So naturally, we indulge into the nonsense. I have no reason of knowing that the lowest moment in the Rizzler's life was when he lost a game of Fortnite.
But is there like something you're like, maybe I could have done that a little different, or maybe I wish I hadn't done that?
When I lost the Fortnite match.
I didn't need to know that the guy who put his feet on the Burger King lettuce died recently. What use does it serve me to know that Livy Dunn rizzed up baby Gronk so he can commit to LSU? It's evident that among many other factors, this perpetual cycle of brain rot has permanently left its mark on society at large. Over half of the American population reads at a 6th grade reading level. Media literacy is all but out the window, and now more and more people are resorting to AI to sift through the garbage to find the truth, and even that's a little spotty at times. Kojima's greatest fear is slowly becoming a reality, but there is hope. The in-game AI admits that with the power of connection, one person can single-handedly destroy the world, which inherently means that with the same power, one person can save it. Hideo Kojima was a lonely child, often left alone due to his parents' long work hours. The young creator was extremely introverted, but not without natural, childlike wonder. And nothing entertained that wonder more than when his hometown hosted the Japan World Expo in 1970. For the first time in his life, he saw people from all over the globe. On top of this, many of the fair's attractions had demonstrations of cutting-edge technologies. This event left one major impression on Kojima: that technology is the path to world peace. This is demonstrated through the overtly horror-themed Death Stranding, a somber, lonely trek through a near future where the sixth mass extinction event is underway. A phenomenon known as the Death Stranding is causing the supernatural world of the dead to be left beached in the land of the living. Death Stranding is very obviously informed by its world of horror, with the most obvious aspect being how you navigate around the supernatural. There are pockets of land possessed by the dead where you need to narrowly avoid conflict by sneaking past. Death Stranding's excellent visual and audio design makes these experiences especially dreadful, akin to a horror game in both how it's presented and how it plays. These encounters inform the severity of the given world, which in turn informs the core theme surrounding Death Stranding: connection. Where Metal Gear Solid 2 portrays connection as a dangerous line that will naturally trend towards destruction, Death Stranding shows the opposite. Without connection, humanity is doomed. In this world, people are isolated in shelters, unable to meet anyone outside of their small circle, thus stripping them of any knowledge that could be beneficial to their situation. But you, the player, take on the role of Sam to bridge these cities together to an evolved fictional version of the internet. In doing so, the beneficial actions from other players all around the world will creep into your game, via a ladder in unstable terrain, a shelter to wait out the rain, or a zipline that can cut meters off of your trip. Now, real quick, if you are a big fan of Death Stranding and want my deeper thoughts on the gameplay as a whole, might I recommend the latest episode of my podcast, Cleric, where I discuss my Death Stranding experience with my good friend Austin Anjum, who just played the game for the first time. Death Stranding is the manifestation of Hideo Kojima's greatest hopes and greatest fears. The hope of human perseverance in spite of the odds. That we will responsibly use our technology, not for the sake of destruction, but for the sake of connection, to give each other a leg up when we desperately need it. This is in stark contrast to the fear that has followed Kojima since he was a child. The fear of succumbing to hopeless isolation. In a world surrounded by negativity, it's easy to fall into a trap, thinking that the world is heading steadfast towards destruction. So what's the point? Why should I bother making structures for other players when I could use these resources myself? What's the point in building connections within the game if it just trivializes the experience? Why should I care about anything if we're all just gonna die anyways? Nihilism in its pure, unadulterated form. Death Stranding is about the importance of connection in the face of an uncertain future, but it's technically a game that can be completed without connecting to a single real-life player, which cannot be said for the most horrifying work of art Kojima has ever just created. It's August 2014. A mysterious demo shadow drops onto the PlayStation Network via 7780 Studio, a new developer with no prior game to show for themselves, nor names attached to the company. Their game, PT, came completely out of left field, but skyrocketed in popularity almost instantly because, well, PT is by far the most important horror game to have been released in the modern day, as it forever changed the horror game landscape with the infamous photorealistic first-person perspective that is still being replicated to this day. Despite this fact, there has still been nothing quite like the playable teaser, as it did the impossible. It connected people all over the world in a way never seen nor done before. Its simple gameplay loop that's easy enough to follow but complex in a way where you have no real idea of what is happening, added to this pressing level of fear that plays with your emotions. How the game builds on accidental progression is nothing short of brilliant. Every clue or mechanic discovered not only leaves you unsure as to what degree you were affecting the game, but it's something that you felt the need to document and immediately report to the internet. Because aside from being a terrifying experience, PT was a bewildering mystery to everyone who came across it. A lot of the progression is locked behind puzzles that are so profoundly obtuse that it's virtually impossible to piece everything together on your own. So naturally, the internet comes together to figure this game out. For instance, there's a puzzle where 6 pieces of a photograph need to be assembled, but the last piece is nowhere to be found. Through the power of connection, however, people discovered that the final piece of the photo is in the pause menu of the game. On top of this, there are other moments within this experience that also play with the notion of being a video game. There's a segment late in the game that emulates a crash, but what may be initially a sign of relief can actually terrorize you in a different way. This game is purely fictitious. It cannot harm you in any way, shape, or form. I don't know about you, but there's something fascinating about a horror game that knows you are playing it. Regardless, PT was made with the explicit intention to be a collaborative puzzle that required connection to fully understand. Something the creator estimated would take a week at the very least, but to his surprise, the secret of PT was cracked within a day of release, revealing to the world that PT was a playable teaser for what is soon to become Silent Hills, helmed by Hideo Kojima himself. But we already know where this leads. Silent Hills never happened. Kojima left Konami, and the ideas eventually manifested into Death Stranding. However, because it's Hideo Kojima, there's a lot more to PT than meets the eye. As it turns out, the world's first interactive teaser can also be interpreted as a really creative way of talking around an NDA. The channel The Great Debate displays this ever so eloquently in their video about PT's hidden meaning, which I highly recommend checking out as it offers some closure to the whole Silent Hills fiasco. In short, PT was not only a well-crafted horror game made as a means of connecting players all around the world, it was also a personal reflection of Kojima's current mindset. Kojima understood that PT was the last thing he would ever create under the guise of Konami, and he felt the fans deserved an explanation. Because of this, he unveiled the playable teaser at Gamescom in spite of Konami's wishes, not only to feed Konami to the fire for canceling the project, but to give players a means of understanding why Silent Hills was going to be cancelled, and why Kojima was being pushed out of the company. The Great Debate's theory doesn't just explain some of the mysteries within PT, it basically explains all of it. Truly unfortunate that the first full-fledged horror game Kojima was set to release was never going to see the light of day to begin with. Tensions were high, and the future was uncertain, but today we have a very different Hideo Kojima. Off the precipice of Death Stranding 2, Kojima's popularity is at an all-time high, and his endeavors into the horror genre are most certainly not over. During the 2023 Game Awards, Kojima revealed a brand new horror experience in collaboration with Xbox Game Studios and horror icon Jordan Peele, OD. An experience that aims to blend video games, film, and technology by using Unreal Engine 5, Epic's metahuman animation tech, and Microsoft's cloud infrastructure. Kojima describes his project not as a new game, but as a new form of media that will explore what it's like to overdose on fear. However, in 2025, there's not much else that has been revealed about OD. Only one thing is certain. There is no possible way of knowing what Hideo Kojima has in store for us next. Thank you for watching my video. I got COVID in the middle of making this thing, and it made it especially tough to get through it all, so if you're here right now, thank you very much. You've made it all worth it. Special shout out to my Patreon over at patreon.com/LandoYT. If you would like to see these videos more consistently, please consider pledging the amount that makes the most sense for you. You'll get your name in the credits right here, right now, and it's really neat. Also, if you need something to listen to, again, I have my podcast all about Death Stranding over on Code Cleric right now. So please, go check it out. With all that being said, I wish you the best. Until next time.